From exotic animals to extravagant gifts, these are the weirdest things that NFL players actually bought. Former NFL quarterback Vince Young must have thought he was invincible because he used to spend his money like crazy. After securing a 6-year, $58 million deal with $26 million guaranteed, Young's spending spiraled out of control. He would go to restaurants such as the Cheesecake Factory and TGI Fridays, where he would rack up minimum $5,000 tabs each visit. We sure hope he has enough antacids and lactates for those greasy sugar binges. But maybe his weirdest purchase was when he bought all the seats on a flight for himself except for 10 passengers who had pre-purchased tickets. This gesture cost him approximately $12,000 for a flight that typically costs around $100 per person. Dude, why? Ever heard of a private flight? Clearly, Young miscalculated his budget because he was one of many NFL players who went broke after retiring. Vince Young's spending habits were cringy. Maybe he could have taken a few notes from this next player. Buffalo Bills wide receiver Stevie Johnson took a modest approach when he made his first major NFL contract. Despite being drafted in the 7th round, Johnson signed a 4-year deal worth $1.75 million. And unlike some of his peers, he wasn't flashy with his spending at all. He purchased an 8-year-old Toyota RAV4 for just over $5,000. It may not be the standard luxury for NFL players, but at least Stevie knew he wasn't going to be panhandling after his NFL career ended. Respect to Stevie all the way. Stevie Johnson wasn't making a big salary by NFL standards, but he knew that he was making more than enough to afford an amazing lifestyle. Our next player clearly felt that an NFL salary wouldn't be nearly enough for him. Sam Hurd was making pretty ridiculous purchases on the regular. In fact, he told an undercover cop that he purchased 10 kilos of cocaine and 100 pounds of marijuana every week. How was he still alive? Not only was he spending millions of dollars on drugs, he also needed a semi-truck to haul them around. Sam, calm down. The risk also was outrageously unnecessary considering Hurd had signed a contract worth over $5 million to play for the Bears. Needless to say, Hurd's NFL career ended early after being arrested and sent to prison. While Sam Hurd was buying monster quantities of drugs, this next player was buying monstrous vehicles. Chris McAllister, a former Baltimore Ravens player, made a noticeable purchase after signing a $55 million contract. When he showed up at training camp, McAllister shocked everyone with a massive Ford F-650 truck. The truck boasted a King Kong license plate and even had a satellite television receiver installed on the roof. While the base price for such a truck was already $100,000, McAllister's additions likely drove the cost even higher. Though the beastly vehicle seemed like an appropriate purchase at the time, it clearly wasn't the only time McAllister splurged on something that may have been a little over the top. After his NFL career ended, he lost all his money and now he lives with his parents. Ugh, man. We feel just as defeated as you. From big money to big couch surfing, I mean, how does someone blow through $55 million? Well, this next player can certainly answer your question. Terrell Owens is one of the best wide receivers to ever do it. But Owens disclosed that he had lost nearly all of the $80 million he had earned during his career. One of his weirdest ventures was a $2 million investment in an Atlanta entertainment complex centered around electronic bingo machines. However, the complex turned out to be illegal in the state, resulting in Owens losing the entirety of his investment. Talk about a big no. Just because you can score touchdowns doesn't mean you can score on your investments. Some of these purchases are pretty weird, but you know what's even weirder? The fact that you are watching our videos but haven't liked this video or subscribed to our channel yet. So you should go ahead and do that. Cause after you do, you'll feel as good as Wes Welker did at the Kentucky Derby. Wes Welker's weirdest purchase was when he spent thousands of dollars on nothing by handing out $100 bills to fans at the Kentucky Derby. It sounds crazy, right? But it's true. Apparently, Welker tested positive for MDMA after the event, which explains the euphoric behavior. Holding a stack of cash, Welker generously made it rain when he distributed money to delighted derby-goers, claiming he had just won the Kentucky Derby. Welker's Kentucky Derby experience was particularly weird because Welker was known as a health nut who was very considerate about what he put in his body. Unlike this next player who clearly just eats junk food. After signing a massive contract making him the NFL's highest paid player, Joe Flacco celebrated in an unexpected way. Instead of going out for a fancy dinner at an expensive restaurant, Flacco made a stop at the McDonald's drive-thru. Totally makes sense if you're a 10-year-old. Employees recognized him and took pictures as he bought a $6.99 meal consisting of a 10-piece chicken McNugget, fries, and an unsweetened iced tea. Despite the staggering $120 million deal, including a $29 million signing bonus and $52 million guaranteed. It was probably the weirdest celebration meal in NFL history. Weird meals are one thing, but you gotta hear about what our player at number 13 keeps in his house. Darnell Dockett has gained attention for his weird purchases of exotic animals, leaving us all astonished. Among his animal collection, he recently acquired an alligator named Honey, which he paid for in cash. Although currently small and adorable, Dockett eagerly anticipates Honey's growth to exceed 500 pounds. And although it's a weird purchase, you might be surprised when you hear that alligators aren't particularly expensive. Darnell Dockett bought Honey for $1,000, but it's far from his most expensive pet. His other weird pets include a tiger cub named Lil Buddy and a monkey worth $30,000. Buying an alligator seems like a weird decision, but could you imagine if someone broke into Dockett's house? Boy, would he have some top-notch protection. And some players have proven in the past that they pay big money for protection. Arian Foster surprised his entire offensive line with segways to thank them for all their hard work. Though it was generous, it was definitely a weird purchase. We can only imagine what kind of looks they would get had all the 300-pound blockers rode their segways together down the street. Each Segway cost Foster around $5,000, totaling approximately $50,000. Arian Foster wasn't the only player that bought gifts for his offensive line. If it weren't for his offensive line in Green Bay, Rodgers likely would have gotten decapitated by a big old blitzing linebacker years ago. So Rodgers decided to reward his entire offensive line with gifts for Christmas. He purchased high-end ATVs worth $20,000 each for every player on his O-line. What a boss! Speaking of great quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson went full out for his offensive line as well. Back when he was still on his rookie contract, Lamar Jackson wanted to thank his offensive line by buying them some expensive gifts as well. So, Jackson purchased Rolex watches for his entire offensive line to show his appreciation. The entire offensive line was looking fresher than your local bakery. And even though spending over $200,000 on watches seemed insane at the time, clearly it paid off. Cause those guys protected Lamar and now he is the highest paid player in the NFL. This next quarterback wasn't buying his teammates gifts. Instead, he was spending loads of money on some unique landscaping at his home. During his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Vick made a peculiar purchase, an $85,000 fish pond. The irony of a significant investment in a fish pond for someone with a troubled history involving animals definitely went noticed. I mean, were these poor fish going to have to fight each other in cages? I sure hope not. Speaking of fish, you gotta hear what this wide receiver bought for his bedroom. Chad Ochocinco made a pretty weird purchase when he bought a fish tank bed priced at a staggering $489,000. That's right, his mattress sat on top of an aquarium. Ocho Cinco claimed that his wife, Evelyn Lozado, spent her nights gazing at the fish before falling asleep. I guess that's one way to spice things up in the bedroom. But Chad Ochocinco wasn't the only player that was showcasing exotic animals in his house as furniture. Warren Sapp's bankruptcy in 2012 revealed a unique possession, a lion skin rug that he bought for $1,200. And with items like that in his house, we're shocked that PETA didn't take his ass down for a brutal spanking. Ah well, I bet that big kitty rug felt incredible on his massive toes. While Warren Sapp was turning animals into rugs, this next player was wearing them. In 1971, New York Jets quarterback Joe Namath made a legendary and widely publicized splurge by sporting a full-length white fur coat on the sidelines. He did this after guaranteeing a Super Bowl victory in 1969 and then coming through on his promise by winning the Super Bowl title. This guy wasn't just a superstar quarterback, he was a big-time celebrity in his day. Decades later, in 2014, at the age of 70, Namath made headlines again at the Super Bowl by wearing another eye-catching fur coat worth $3,000. To each their own, right? If you think a fur coat is flashy, then wait until you see these cleats at number 5. Odell Beckham Jr. made headlines with his $200,000 cleats for Super Bowl 56. The creation of these flashy footwear pieces involved a collaboration between sneaker customizer Dominic Chambroni, also known as the Shoe Surgeon, and celebrity jeweler Jason Arashaben of Jason of Beverly Hills. The process started immediately after the NFC Championship game, with Chambroni proposing the idea of gold and diamond cleats to Beckham. The resulting cleats featured 1,494 individual diamonds, totaling over 25 carats, and became the most expensive pairs ever made for an NFL player. LSU produces some pretty great wide receivers, and while some of them, like Odell, are getting crazy custom jewels put on their shoes, others aren't getting so lucky. After using his rookie money to pay off his mother's debt, Jarvis Landry bought $90,000 worth of jewelry. However, his excitement quickly turned sour when a diamond fell off his Rolex, prompting him to have the entire collection appraised. The shocking discovery revealed that the jewelry he had bought was fake. All of it. And no, Landry never got a refund for the purchase. While some players were splurging on diamonds and cars, this next player was spending all his money on weird treatments to keep him in playing condition for as long as possible. Linebacker James Harrison has a unique approach to staying young and in optimal shape, investing a staggering $350,000 annually. Harrison goes the extra mile by flying in a team of specialists that help maintain his body. This specialized group includes an acupuncturist, 3 massage therapists, 2 chiropractors, a dry needle specialist, and a practitioner of cupping therapy. So if you're wondering how Harrison performed like a bull on adrenaline at such an old age, now you know. When you work that hard, we would hope that you find time to celebrate once in a while. We know that Bryant McKinnie did. Minnesota Vikings offensive lineman Bryant McKinnie made headlines for his extravagant spending during an NFL lockout. It was reported that McKinnie splurged a staggering $100,000 on a bar tab. At that point, you gotta wonder why he didn't just go ahead and buy the bar. The crazy party night took place at the My House nightclub, where McKinnie bought 15 bottles of champagne and much more. When you hear about all these players blowing money on these weird and unnecessary things, it almost makes you lose hope. But at number 1, we feature a player that put his salary to good use. Last but not least, we have Chris Long. He garnered immense admiration and respect when he made the selfless decision to donate his entire 2017 NFL salary to charity. It was worth $2.25 million before tax reductions. Instead of directing the funds to a single organization, Long distributed the money across various charitable causes throughout the country. The decisions made him one of the most loved players in the league. By foregoing his entire year's salary, Long demonstrated his commitment to making a positive impact and became a source of inspiration and admiration. There you have it. Those were the weirdest things that NFL players actually bought. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out the other video up on your screen right now to keep on rolling with our NFL content.